Welcome to the Homeschool High School podcast, brought to you by Seven Sisters Homeschool.com and the Ultimate Homeschool Podcast Network. I'm Vicki, and I am so excited today because I have my friend Natalie Mack and her son Nathaniel with us today. Because I read about Nathaniel's project for the Conservation District, and it just knocked my socks off. And I was so excited. I said, Natalie, please, can we talk to your son on the podcast? So anyway, so Natalie, would you mind introducing Nathaniel to us and tell us a little bit for our new listeners, because we always have new ones hop in, about Natalie, who does everything.
I don't want to talk about me.
Like Natalie is our seven sister buddy from years, and but also started the Military Homeschool Association. Has done TEDx talks. Just like what else? I run out of time.
That's all. I'm joking.
But besides that, she's just fun. So, Natalie, would you introduce Nathaniel and tell a little bit about y'all's family homeschool journey, and then we're going to talk about how he found the project and all about it. So,
yeah. So, Vicki, I always love speaking with you.
Yeah.
We just have bonded over the years, and
Yes.
I am honored to be a Seven Sisters cousin.
Yes.
And I'm really excited today because my youngest son gets to join me on the podcast.
That's awesome.
I am, obviously, my name is on the screen, Natalie Mack. And so I am a military homeschooler and been homeschooling 23 years. And we have 5 children. So 4 have been homeschooled to college, and all of those are now college graduates, and they have their own individual story like all homeschoolers have. And so our youngest is starting 12th grade. And I'm really excited to have him here with us. We obviously been a military family, have lived all over the world. I did start the nonprofit, like you mentioned, Military Homeschoolers Association. So for all you male homeschoolers out there, find me on social media. And then I have a homeschool consultation business, Natalie Mack, LLC. And I work part-time for Homeschool Legal Defense Association as their military community outreach coordinator. So I think we want to segue to Nathaniel, who I'm really proud of. One of the things I will say for our family, and you mentioned the TEDx, so I like to reference it. It's at 19,000 views at this point. The Impact of Homeschooling is the name of it on YouTube. But the reason I really want to bring it up is not because I want people to keep watching and looking and all. That's fine. If that's your decision, that'd be great. But it's really just about the journey of what does each child want to do? What do they have a passion, interest? How can we build on it? And that's really why I mention it now, because it's relevant to what we are going to talk about with Nathaniel and how we got on this conservation journey. So I will let him share a little bit about himself and some things he's interested in. And we can go back and forth and talk a little bit. Is that good?
Yeah, Nathaniel. Yeah, would you tell us about your homeschooling journey and about how you got interested in this project?
Yeah, so my name is Nathaniel Mack, and I'm 16 years old, actually about to turn 17 soon, end of this month. I think I got interested in conservation and just environmental science in general. I want to say in middle school, I was just noticing a lot about it on the news. Topics about climate change, global warming. And it kind of really got me interested in how I can help, what I can do in my community. And I have to thank my parents for noticing that interest and then getting me started in several organizations that, all practice conservation and environmental science. Yeah.
That is awesome. So the beautiful thing about homeschooling is we have the space to say, hey, I noticed my son is interested in this. Let's find some avenues to explore that interest. So what were some of the things that y'all explored, like organizations that you were looking at?
Yeah, we kind of started off with a lot of camps. So particularly last year, summer of 2023 and also summer of 2022, I went to a lot of environmentally focused camps, such as like Camp Woods and Wildlife, Youth Conservation Corps,
Mm.
also 4-H camp,
Mhm.
and then Boy Scout summer camp as well.
Wow, your transcript must look really good. That,
Hey, Vicki, I wanted to say real quickly,
yeah,
you know, that's what homeschool moms do. At least that's what we do, I should
yeah,
say, right? And you and I've talked about this, right? Finding, helping our kids figure out their passion and interest. For
mhm,
now, we know that may change. It
right,
probably will, right? But for now,
mhm,
high school years, how important that is, right? For
yeah,
that phase, wherever they're going, college or military enlistment, wherever they're going, so they can have a sense of who they are and what they're interested and passionate about. So,
mhm,
so he said that really nice. He said, "I want to thank my parents," and that's awesome. And he's
yeah,
genuine. That is genuine from him. But I also know that a lot of students and moms listening may say, "Oh gosh, my kids don't want me to keep putting them in one activity after the other."
mhm,
But it's not random.
yeah,
We did see that focus on conservation, that interest, that spark. It was just a spark. And I will tell the story real quickly. As a military family, and for those who are military listening, we were at our commissary, which is our grocery store,
yes,
and years ago, and we were at the checkout, and in a commissary, there are people who work part-time as baggers.
uh-huh,
So they asked, "Do you want plastic or paper?" And I always was like, plastic, because it's simple. It has the handles. It just is better. I can carry more plastic bags than
yeah,
bags, right?
yeah,
So, but he was with me, which a lot of times homeschoolers are with us running errands
right,
today. And so I said plastic, and we kept putting our stuff up on the belt. And he kind of gasped like, and I was like, "What is wrong with you?" He's like this tall, not tall like he is now. He was this tall.
yeah,
And he said, "Mom, you know where the plastic goes?" And I'm like, "Oh,
ah,
yeah, I know." And that's what, homeschool kids, you learn these things and they come back to haunt us,
yeah,
right? As
yeah,
parents. And so I had what I considered a moral, ethical kind of decision I had to make. My convenience over what I knew he had learned and what I knew was true,
yeah,
right? And I literally have done my best to be more focused on bringing paper bag, asking for paper bags or bringing my own bags now.
yeah,
Very much decreased the plastic.
yeah,
So that was the beginning, and that was the spark, you all. That was the
yes.
spark I saw, and I took it and I ran with it. And
Well,
found
yeah. Well, Nathaniel, that's beautiful. Is you were learning about the effects on the environment of plastic, and you thought it out, and you talked to your mom right there at the commissary about paper versus plastic, and
Exactly.
so that kind of thinking brain, even as a younger person, made an impact on your family, and then it got the balls rolling. So, what happened after that?
What happened after that was I got started with an organization called Youth Conservation Leadership Institute.
Yeah.
And I want to say I started that around like late 2023.
Yeah.
And that involved a lot of like on hands like work with my dad and my mom, and also advisors within our county that work for the organization. Um, Essentially, the program revolves around several students who get selected into the program, and then they work with advisors in their county in Virginia, and they are assigned, or they decide on a project that they want to work with. My project was reducing soil erosion and increasing pollination within my neighborhood park. And from there, they just are working with their advisors and parents and whoever else is interested in conservation, environmental science that wants to work with them to get their project started and finished.
Yeah.
That was a lot.
Yeah.
Right. There are many layers of that. So first you found the program. So y'all found, and is that associated with a larger organization or?
It is it's the Northern Virginia Soil and Water Conservation District.
Ah,
Um, the
mm-hmm,
state has a larger entity of soil and water conservation, but and
mm-hmm.
then it's broken down into districts. So we're in the Northern Virginia district, and the YCLI, the Youth Conservation Leadership Institute, is what they sponsor. So you
Yeah.
have to apply, get
So,
selected, and it's a year-long institute. So they met frequently on Zoom. I think it
Yeah.
was Zoom, and they had a book or two they had to read. They had um, all kinds of things in that respect. They never had any in person until the end, which was a graduation celebration and an
neat.
exhibit. So he had to bring his like a trifle there and
Mm-hmm.
exhibit and talk about his project. And then they all were celebrated, and I think they had pizza. Maybe yeah, they had pizza and all the things that they know teens want. So yeah, but it was a long project, and so it and then we had
Yeah.
to break it up. Thankful to my husband because um, he really now retired after all the years of not being really able to be here when he
Right.
wanted to be because he was often military called, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So he was able to really be here and kind
Yeah.
of tie it together and help them. So
Yeah. So Nathaniel, you applied to this youth leadership program, and was it you were accepted into it, and so you had some Zoom training. So you had some books to read and some like classroom on Zoom experiences. So there was an educational component to that, and then a hands-on part of that. So in the book part, what kind of things were you learning, like the basics of conservation practices, or
Yeah, exactly. We were learning the basic parts of conservation practices from even like my project, which involved reducing soil erosion. We learned about that and
Mhm.
pollination. Also, like how plastic bottles or just plastic in general can be harmful in some cases to aquatic life. Pretty much all things environmental science. It was very helpful because it related to not only my project, but also a lot of the other students' projects. So it was a great way to like learn more about how you can do your project through the book, as well as maybe learning stuff you hadn't known.
that is so cool. So you got some things that I bet your transcript, yeah, the transcript looks really good because you could put this really strong, like academic and hands-on, like lab experience in there on your transcript. So tell me how you chose the specific project.
hmm Yeah, so that was it. So we had several different ideas.
Mhm.
And then we kind of settled down on my project, which I named it Eagle Eye Project, reducing soil erosion and increasing pollination in my neighborhood park.
So,
We layered it down to that specific project. I wouldn't say particularly because it's in my neighborhood. We knew that it wanted to be something that's in my community,
mhm.
something that, will be a positive impact, of course. And also because I'm also a Boy Scout and I'm working on my Eagle Scout project as well.
Oh my gosh, that's great. Yes.
Part of becoming Eagle Scout is you have to have a certain requirement of merit badges.
Mm-hmm.
And one of those merit badges is an environmental science merit badge.
Uh,
And with that environmental science merit badge, one of the requirements within it is that you have to identify like an environmental problem or concern in your local community.
uh-huh.
And we kind of were able to combine both of those things into one. And so I'm really happy that it worked out. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. One of the good things about homeschooling is we can do these two first, so it fit for both categories.
yes, I love them.
Yeah. So you actually had a park in your community that you could go and do this project with. Did that entail having to go talk to the city professionals? Like, what did you have to do to get permission to do some work in the park?
So that entailed working with my neighborhood board,
Uh,
pretty much talking over email and meeting up with them in person at the president of of my neighborhood board's house. Had about, I want to say, 5 or 4 meetings going over my project, the different phases of my project, what was needed from them, and also meeting up with them during the actual like day of my project, where we actually installed the jute erosion control netting to reduce the soil erosion, and planted those milkweed plants for increasing pollination. So, yeah.
So it took several presentations
Yes.
working with the neighborhood people in charge, and so that gave you public speaking experience, and presenting a project. So that's pretty powerful experiences there too. And then as you got ready to work on the project, the organization gave you some mentoring, or what kind of like one-on-one or advising were you getting?
Yeah, so they do give you, there's advisors within the different counties. So I had Ashley Palmer as my advisor, and she was very helpful. And she basically was she's like works with YCLI, Youth Conservation Leadership Institute, and the Soil Water Conservation District. So she's very experienced with like YCLI students, all the different projects. And so she was extremely helpful. And she was also able to connect me with other people within Fairfax that were experienced within reducing soil erosion and pollination.
Yeah. And like, I'm a homeschool mom, you could tell all of these different skills you're getting. So with her, you were learning, mentoring process and networking skills. So like all the soft skills you're getting while you're doing this hands-on conservation project. That is wonderful.
And he had a lot of writing and things. He had the emails he had to construct. So Dad would sit down with Dad, and they would talk through, okay, what email do you need to send to respond to this email from Miss Palmer, or what do we need to say to the board, or do you have your PowerPoint presentation ready for the board so they can understand what we are asking them to give us permission to do? The neighborhood park, we should say, is right borders the Potomac River. So there were several steps to get approval for that area, because it's part of it is protected. I forgot a protected area. I wasn't as hands-on involved, but my husband and Nathaniel were. But yeah, there were several layers, lots of emails, lots of work, lots of calling and talking to people, and just kind of like, oh gosh. And also canvassing the homeschool community and his local Boy Scout troop to say, hey, creating flyers for me to post around and on social media to get people to come and volunteer. So we're thankful for all of those people's help as well. Yeah.
Wow. Many layers of communication and networking and organizational skills.
Yeah.
And how did you like choose what you were going to do, like the material? So you were using some jute netting, and so describe that.
So I decided to use the specific materials to reduce the soil erosion and increase pollination for my project, mainly through just general research, as well as talking with my advisors like Ashley Palmer and some other environmental specialists. Also communicating with the board for my neighborhood, like what would work in the park. And the materials such as like jute erosion control netting, it's biodegradable, which we really enjoyed and liked. So that's part of the reason why we decided to go with that. And then as well as milkweed plants, because it attracts monarch butterflies. And so we think that is, of course, a nice touch, because you are at the park, you are viewing the Potomac River. And so
who doesn't like butterflies, right?
Yeah, and how wonderful we need more milkweed out there, because we need more monarchs. So you got a bunch of jute netting, and how did you have to do fundraising for that?
Yes, so we did have to do fundraising for that. That was mainly reaching out to my local like communities that I'm part of, like and also my parents, friends, families, yeah, businesses,
and adult siblings,
and siblings,
of course, yes,
for fundraising for my project.
yeah.
And then the actual day where we installed the jute residential netting was me and some of my homeschoolers, fellow homeschoolers that are part of FBG, to actually hands-on install the jute residential netting in the park and planting the milkweed seeds. Yeah.
That is so wonderful. So you got your local homeschool friends, so they got some service hours in there with you. And so what did y'all do? Roll out the netting along the coast, the shoreline with the river, or describe what y'all did?
Well, originally that was going to be our plan, but to make long story short, part of that park is, like my mom was mentioned earlier, resource protected. So you do need permits in order to do any work around those areas. And with YCLI, Youth Conservation Leadership Institute, there's a graduation ceremony. So there is a deadline for your project to be completed.
Right.
And unfortunately, there just wasn't going to be enough time for those permits to get approved.
He submitted them. They worked hard. They had to do all kinds of calculations, but submitting to the county takes time, and so they had to modify it a little bit with that. I will say, let me back up real quick. You add that before all this, the actual project, there was a first project, which was they had to clean up the area. So that was a major, and then they had to cut down. Did they do to cut down the trees? They had to cut down some trees that were dead. So there were several outings and activities. So I just want to make sure it was more than one day.
So you were getting lots of hands-on hours, but also learning the complexities of doing any kind of community or environmental project. So like irreplaceable experiences. That's just wonderful. So you guys eventually got the land was cleaned off, it was prepared, and you got your netting and your homeschoolers and milkweed. And what, you plant all day? Could you get it done in a few hours? Like, what did that look like?
So for the cleanup, which we did first before we installed the netting, jute netting, or planting any seeds, that was, I want to say that it actually didn't take as long as we expected, because we did have a lot of help, which I'm really thankful for. Especially from within my homeschool community, a lot of people showed up, also the board, and also people just in my neighborhood.
The neighborhood families out too.
Oh, wonderful. So you pulled the neighborhood together. That is fabulous. Oh my goodness.
Right. This park was just literally a park, right? It wasn't like it needed some cleanup, and it needed some beautification and some things to get family friendly to use. So had a lot of work to get going, and like we said, the scout troop came out and helped as well.
Fabulous.
How long did it take you all?
So for the clean up, I want to say it took like 4 hours. And then there was a second phase, where we then installed the jute netting and planted those milkweed seeds. And that also didn't take as long, as we also had a lot of help. A lot of people came out for that as well. I want to say that took like
4 or 5 hours.
So in feet on the ground, it was a couple of 4-hour chunks, but there were many more hours beforehand that went into that. How did it feel when you finished the last milkweed seed planting?
I felt really accomplished.
Mhm.
Yeah, I was really happy and thankful for everyone that had showed up and
Yeah,
helped support my project.
yeah.
And then we also ate pizza, so that was fun.
That, that was wise, very wise. Yeah, so now that's another organizational skill.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
the volunteers. That's a
Right.
good thing.
Gotta feed the volunteers. And Dad was like, okay, we gotta feed them. Do we need water out there? He was, and being a scout, that he's used to having to plan for campouts and all. So, and Dad's been very involved as he's been able to over the years with scouting with him and his brothers. But they had those conversations like, okay, what do we need to have? Do you have everything ready? Have you communicated this and all? So it was probably more than what we anticipated,
Yeah.
for the first time with this particular project. But I think the value was just immense.
And so you're for life experience, for the community, doing things together, and transcript development, which, I love that kind of stuff. All right. And then you wrapped it all up with a poster presentation like you do in college. And presented that at the graduation for your program. So what was that like, being official? Here I am doing a poster presentation.
See, that part of my project was also really fun. That was going to Walmart, Staples with my dad and picking up a poster board, some sheets of colored paper, and markers, and then kind of coming up with a design for the poster board. It turned out really nice. And I want to say maybe like 2 days after that, the graduation ceremony happened. So I brought my poster board and some tape and glue just in case anything happened to fall apart.
Smart.
Yeah, backup, right?
Yeah.
Laptop, did you?
And my laptop. So I was really prepared just in case something were to happen, or if other people just showed up with a laptop instead of a poster board.
So smart. So smart. So how many young people presented, graduated with you from the program?
I would say about 12 people. Everyone that got selected into the program graduated. Yeah.
Wow. So that's quite a good core group of young people that are going to go do cool things in life. So.
Right.
Yeah. Now, did it inspire you enough that you are still curious about conservation, or are there other things growing, other interests that are growing also right now?
Yes, I'm definitely still interested in conservation. I would say, yeah, it definitely inspired me even more. There's one more project coming up.
Oh, yeah?
As I mentioned, I'm a Boy Scout, and so I am working on my Eco Scout project.
Yes.
So that also is going to involve conservation. I'm currently working on that with my parents.
So what is that project going to look like?
Right now, that project is going to involve restoring one of the local cemeteries, actually on Fort Belvoir, which is very close to where we live.
It's a historic cemetery that was there before the base was a base. And some of those who are buried there were descendants of those who were enslaved at Mount Vernon, George Washington's home. So yes, and so it's not a cemetery that the base owns or administratively manages. It's really just, it was there. And of course the base had to honor those who buried there. So there's a fence around it, but he's going to do some of course cleanup, but also you're going to do are you all still doing the monarch?
We're also going to be planting milkweed plants again there. So
that's fabulous. So what an honorable project. So honorable for those who are there, and honorable for the environment. So that what a beautiful Eagle Scout project. That is great. Yeah. So next year is senior year on top of all that. So you got like college applications and that kind of stuff going on.
Actually, have a SAT study session later today, and so I'm also in that process and starting to look at colleges to apply for. Yeah, I'm really excited.
Yeah. Do you, of course, I know this is an irritating question. I'm sorry, but I'm going to do it anyway. Do you have an idea what kind of majors you're interested in?
Yeah, right now I'm actually looking in environmental science and marketing.
Yeah.
I could see both of those angles. Yeah, I could see both of those. So, yeah, and nothing is ever wasted. All of your experiences, no matter where God leads you next, are all going to be part of that story. So
That is so true. Hey, Vicki, I wanted to say, so again, another homeschool mom thing is that we have here in Northern Virginia, we have a 4-H club of Fort Belvoir homeschoolers.
uh-huh.
So it's not connected to the group that I lead, which is Fort Belvoir Home Educators.
Right. Oh, yes. Okay.
It's not connected. It just is
Uh-huh.
the Fort Belvoir piece is just for geographical kind of like distinction.
Mhm.
But it's the only homeschool group in the Fairfax County 4-H district.
Ah.
And so the fair is coming up. The Fairfax County 4-H fair is coming up the first weekend of August. So fair entry. So I was like, just enter your YCLI code and about conservation, right? So now we have a threefer.
I love a threefer. That's like the trifecta there.
So
that is fabulous. And what rich experiences to do the 4-H fairs.
Yeah.
Like, oh my goodness, I bet you when you do your college applications and have to do your application essay, you are going to have some good stories to tell on that. So that's going to be fabulous. So, okay. All right. Anything else you want to add? Any advice you'd give to fellow homeschoolers?
Any advice? I would say, I think my mom kind of touched on this a little bit too, that what you might be interested in right now, even though you might be thinking that it's likely to change in the future, I think it's a very good idea though to kind of stay, at least have some sort of pattern in your interests. That's really helpful when if you do plan to apply for colleges. And so I would say, yeah, to kind of stay focused on, what your passions, interests are.
That is great advice. Well, Nathaniel, thank you so much. And thank you for being the kind of person who will go out there and affect the world, like doing projects in the community and having the leadership that is growing in you, all the different skills that you're gaining and willing to develop. So I'm excited to see what God does next in your life.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. And Natalie, thanks for having such awesome kids and being an awesome person.
I'm thankful. And, I always tell homeschoolers, trust the process, right? Yeah, trust the process and use that time flexibility to just kind of create the unique opportunities for each of your kids. Trust that it will work and that learning isn't all just academic. And so hopefully this inspires and kind of shows how that's possible.
Yeah, and that's what I'm sure it will. So that's one of the reasons I wanted you on here, Nathaniel, because it will inspire other people. But besides, it was just so interesting. I wanted to hear all about it. All right. Well, this has been the Homeschool High School podcast brought to you by 7sistershomeschool.com and the Ultimate Homeschool Podcast Network. Thanks to Richie Source for transcribing and Seth Tillman for editing. And we will see everybody next week.